Everyone. We're going to rise for the pledge, and after that I would ask that we take a moment in your self-reflection. Remember those, especially this time of year, in our armed forces, our first responders, and all of those that will be protecting us as we go through this holiday season. So please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I've got to become a little bit more familiar with my surroundings now. I'm not used to this. What?
It's a better view from over here.
So again, good morning, everyone. Apologize for being a few minutes late, but that's the way that it rolls some days. So we're going to start off.
Not a coincidence it was a new president.
Yeah, okay, whatever, blah, blah. I shouldn't have brought that up. Anyway, see, I thought you would have brought that up, Eric, but you didn't.
What, the president? You're always chairman to me.
Yeah, okay, whatever. So we're going to start off with Positively Carol, but the first thing we're going to do before our colleagues get to speak about the things that are going on, we have a presentation today, a really big presentation. Is that right? So Jeff, our Director of Parks and Rec, Jeff Daggetts, if you would do the honors, please.
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If I could, I'll give you just a real quick background on this. Each year, Piney Run hosts a big fish contest. We have a number of fishing tournaments during the year, but whoever catches the largest fish through the whole season, they get a $1,000 prize. If they are fortunate enough to break the all-time record, they get an additional $500 on top of that. This year is the first year, 2018, where we had the fully extended operating season. We opened March 1st, which was a month earlier than in the past, and we ran through November 30th. On March 1st, we had a 32.8-pound, 43-inch striped bass caught. That was at the top of the leaderboard all season long until the middle of November. Poor guy, March 1st. David here, middle of November, caught a striped bass, 33.8 pounds, 45 and a half inches long. David was the winner last year, and he is the repeat winner this year of the Big Fish Contest. And to make it even more special, the all-time record holder is here today, and it's David's father, Richard Newiller. So Richard has a picture of his fish as well. So you know, there's no fish story unless you can back it up. But we have a $1,000 check to present to David, and would like to do that and have a photo taken.
Was this catch and release?
Last year, yes. This year, no.
Oh, okay. You didn't worry about it.
I heard you're buying lunch.
Yeah.
Fish.
Yeah.
Oh no, so I got a couple. So where'd you catch them? What part of the lake?
We're fishing right down by the dam. Now, last year, I caught it right where you see me standing.
Okay.
That was a different fish.
Yeah.
And then, believe it or not, my father's caught a 40-inch striper and multiple 40-inch stripers, trophy fish, off every single handicap accessible dock on that park.
No, because
matter of fact, the one you see my picture in is where we've caught some of her. So he can put his handicap tag up, pull in right there, get out, and walk right there.
Okay. So what lure did you use?
Yeah, that's my next question.
Taking copious
no,
notes.
Live shiners, AC plugs.
On this guy.
Cotton Cordell red fins.
What did you use on this guy?
This guy was a a shiner that was probably about that long and about that thick. Where you got to put a hook in the front and then a trailer in the back. We pulled big baits for 15 days in really dirty water and hooked up on 3 fish. One was like that and did not get in the boat.
Yeah.
And he lost it. And then the second one, that fish right there was like hooking a
An elephant.
It got crazy. I had to turn the whole boat, run it down. He took over 200 yards of line before I could get everything organized. Because I fished with light stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
before I got organized, he was gone. And
Yeah.
but once we caught up, now he was in 40 foot of water. My father landed his fish on a shallow, short dock, got in the grass. I mean, you get in deep water, you're pretty good. You get in the stumps and the weeds and the lily pads, and you got 36-pounder on the end of there, and he's got 200-pound of grass on his head.
See, I want to know. I only get like the 2, maybe 3 pounder out of there, so that's pretty impressive.
The bass fishing
That's
is
awesome.
probably the best. It's good.
Congratulations.
It's good.
Yeah, that's
So
good
it's,
stuff.
it's a great contest, and it's a great way to advertise early and late attendance at the park. You know, the two largest fish caught in March and November.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we know folks will be out there first
Absolutely.
thing next year.
I will.
Yep.
Right.
Also, I'd like to introduce two of our staff that we have from Piney Run here. We have Deb Rotman, who is the park superintendent, and Bill Ox, the park technician. And Bill was very involved with the tournament and monitoring the leaderboard, although not a lot of changes throughout the year. So,
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to get a photo op down here?
Yeah.
I think special recognition should go to Pops for training you well.
You ain't kidding. I'd have been really nervous to hook a fish where he hooked that fish. That was a bad spot.
Oh, that checkup. Yeah. Nice try. Just scoot in as close as we can get.
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen. Right here. One more. Excellent job. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank all you guys, man. Maybe I'll get lucky to see y'all again. I don't know. Yeah, 2 in a row.
You're on restriction. You're not allowed to fish there anymore.
Man, oh, that's for me. Man, that is awesome. I really. Oh, yes. Did I got 2014. Yeah. If you want to show that, you guys want to.
I like
Just
this.
pass that around real quick to see the king.
So you got $1,000 inflation. He got $250.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
an impressive fish.
Yeah, that is. It was a little different class. This is very close in weight and length, but it was a little different structure. That fish was like a dinosaur. He used to be so
You know what they say, apples don't fall far from the tree.
It's a fish story.
The fact is, the fish was this big.
Y'all have a good Christmas.
Yeah, you do the same. Thank
Thanks
you
for
again.
coming out.
Yep.
Thank you, David.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Positively Carol. What do we have, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'd like to, oh, go ahead.
I was at the Senior Center in Mount Airy yesterday. What a wonderful group of people there. It was packed with senior citizens. They know how to party. They know how to eat well, too. I enjoyed their company. I enjoyed talking to the senior citizens there and getting a feel for what their concerns are. And I'd like to give recognition to Citizen Services for being there as well and being supportive with the endeavor. So thank you very much.
And I was at the North Carroll Senior Center last week. I think 265 people. It was huge in there. And I just want to recognize also the Wreaths Across America last Saturday. I happened to be at Deer Park Church where they did 150 couple wreaths on veterans' graves. But great attendance. People stood out in the rain. 200 people in the rain to honor our veterans and teach our young people about what's happened, why those people were there. So it was a great event.
Eric, you were at,
Yes, I forgot to mention, I was at the Wreaths Across America in New Windsor at St. Luke's Cemetery. It was an impressive thing to be involved in. I'm not a veteran, so at first I felt a little uneasy about speaking, but I was very much welcome. I learned that we have Revolutionary War veterans buried in New Windsor, and that really impressed me. We have the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, all the wars since then, and it was a great outshowing of support from the citizens of that community, and I was very much touched to speak for them.
yeah, it's good. So just to continue on that theme, I want to thank Babylon Vault. Babylon Vault they are the folks that took the lead into this, great effort that we put into it. And they're going to expand. We did 9 or 10.
this year.
Was it 9 this year? And I was at St. Paul's in Uniontown, and a ton of veterans there as well. But their intent is to expand it to get most every cemetery in Carroll. And it's interesting because we will probably be the first county in not only the state but across the region that will have that ability to be able to do that. So I'm looking forward to what they bring to the table. So the family over there at Babylon Vault, they did a great job. Actually, for those that maybe didn't know or perhaps didn't see it, we actually had a truckload of wreaths that were supposed to be going to Arlington. Somehow the truck got lost. We got the Arlington truckload, and they were escorted in to Babylon Vault the other day by the New Windsor Fire Company. With
They provided tents, they
Yeah.
provided signage for these, they did a great job.
Yeah, so kudos to that family, and we look forward to what they bring in 2019. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. It was a wet day, and it goes to everyone that was out there, because we were all soaked. There's no question about it. So
It was very impressive for the
Yep.
outpouring of
Yep.
support on such a rainy day.
Yep, so kudos to them.
Not to belabor this, but to really continue the theme, and as a veteran, I strongly appreciate it. You know, there's a saying that the backbone of our country is the men and women who serve in uniform, and the strength behind those men and women are the families. And taking it one step further, it really is the community. So when we're doing these wreaths across America, and every time we take a step, you know, back, breathe out, recognize somebody, and thank them, you're thanking the veteran, you're thanking the family, you're thanking the community. That's what, you know, to me, what Carroll County is bringing, you know, to light by doing these type of activities and events. So it is to memorialize that veteran that's laid to rest in that cemetery, but it's also sharing the love and respect that you have for that family and community that wraps themselves around that veteran. So that's my 2 cents about this, so thank you.
Well said.
Okay, out of the gate, before we lose the viewing audience, I just want to remind folks that county offices will be closed on Monday and Tuesday of next week, and then again the following week on Monday and Tuesday for obvious reasons. And on behalf of my colleagues, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season and a happy new year. And this is actually our last session of 2018. I don't know if that has any significance or not, but we will not be in session until January the something. Is it 10th?
Yeah.
Okay. So for all those that are on the edge of their seats, wondering when we're back on, it's the 10th. Yeah, okay. All right, with that, first item, approval to submit an application for the Callert Foundation Grant for Veteran Services Program, which is kind of goes along with the theme. So, Christine, I will let you do the introductions, even though we know who these ladies are, but I'm going to let you do that.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Joining me today is Celine Steckel, Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities, and Gina Valentine, who is going to tell you her title because it's very long, and I tend to mess it up.
Aging and Disability Services Supervisor.
Rockstar for short.
So we're here this morning seeking approval to submit our 2019 Callert Foundation grant application. The Callert Foundation grant enables our Veteran Services Program to provide emergency assistance to Carroll County veterans in need. This will be the 3rd year that we're submitting a grant to the Callert Foundation. With the grant funds, we're able to provide emergency housing for homeless vets, diversion from homelessness, food, gas, clothing, transportation, medical-related needs, and utility assistance and vehicle repairs, to name a few. The total amount of the grant award is $115,000. $26,817 goes to our part-time staff member, and then $88,183 to the client assistance. We have made a lot of strides with this grant money. Gina is going to talk about some of the goals we've achieved and statistics on the number of veterans we've served.
So again, as Christine said, this would be the third year. So in the first year was fiscal year 17. The grant funding that we received during that year was $130,000, which supported a part-time case manager. And the grant supported and provided assistance to a total of 38 veterans. 27 of those were homeless veterans, and 9 veterans were diverted from homelessness. Additional assistance provided to veterans included, as Christine mentioned, food, gas, vehicle repairs, medical-related needs, furnace repairs. We were able to provide beds for veterans who were homeless, who moved into housing, and some of those veterans had children. In one instance, there were 2 children in the family with the veteran who had never had their own beds. So it was great to be able to provide them with beds through this grant. Legal fees and clothing. In fiscal year 2018, we received another grant for $125,000, which again supported a part-time case manager. And we served a total of 48 veterans with that grant. 12 veterans were diverted from homelessness, and of those 48, 23 were homeless veterans. Additional assistance provided during that time, again, was food, gas, utilities, clothing, training, and security deposits to help veterans, homeless veterans move into housing. Just to share with you some of the outcomes that have occurred since we've started receiving these grants, is that we've become the Veteran Services Program has become the primary point of contact in Carroll County for homeless veterans. And the word is out there. Other partner agencies, they know to direct people to us, and the veterans themselves know to come to our agency. Homeless veterans begin receiving case management services the same day that they contact our program. And they also have the ability, because of the support that we have from you all, to have our veteran services officers, the homeless veterans or other veterans, are able to connect directly to veteran service officers, to apply for pension and compensation claims, connect to the VA medical system, and also register for the Veteran Shuttle. I'm going to pass to Celine now to give you some additional information.
I just wanted to also make you aware that Carroll County is really leading the way in veteran services to homeless veterans in this way. One of the things that we have in Carroll County that is not available across Maryland is that our county has employed veteran services officers that sit within the Bureau of Aging and Disabilities. Other folks have veteran service officers in their counties, but they are not part of their Bureau of Aging and Disabilities or the county in general, but we have that designation here, which makes us our collaboration with the VA system is much easier to access for our folks, and it's a one-stop shop. We also are the only county in Maryland that has the ability to provide homeless veterans with immediate emergency shelter, and that's made possible by this grant. There's also a strong collaboration with the community partners and involvement in the Circle of Caring efforts with a focus on ending veterans' homelessness. We also have additional supports now through the HUD-VASH vouchers that we had received. We were awarded 10 of those in June of 2018. And we are happy to say there is only 1 voucher left at this point in time, because we have been able to work with the HUD and with the VA to award these vouchers to 9 individuals. We also have participation in Circle of Caring with the Ending Veterans Homelessness Committee meetings between other program and partner agencies, including the VA, to assist homeless veterans in obtaining housing. We have the coordinated entry initiatives to improve access to services, reduce delays, and reduce duplication of services, which is also important. So I think that Carroll County is really leading the way in veterans' homelessness reduction and elimination, and also to say that when we attend other statewide meetings, conferences, people are acknowledging that. People are coming up to Gina, they're coming up to me, they're coming up to Christine to ask, how are you doing this? We want to be more like your county, and that's really a great question to have and to be able to respond to.
You are leading the way, and your services are phenomenal. And the Kellogg Foundation has been fantastic, as well as a lot of other groups. And Colonel, you see it on the Veterans Council, same as I do, but it's unbelievable. The support that Carroll County has, and I actually went to a MACO session probably a year and a half ago, and what another county was doing, and I left there like, we did that 2 years ago, and we were so far ahead. It's unbelievable.
If I can, share again in the same, breath as I shared a few minutes ago about the strength of our servicemen and women, especially our veterans, are our families and neighbors and community. And you know how I feel about you and the Veterans Advisory Council. as rock stars, as really making things happen. For veterans, it's and for me, it's humbling and honoring to receive that type of support because we don't ask for it when we're in uniform, and it becomes even more difficult when we're out of uniform. So your ability as a team and as a community to reach out and find those veterans in need is just, second to none. And Secretary Owens and I have had many conversations from the Maryland VA how Carroll County is leading the charge. We both agree it's not enough. We need to continue to do more, but we are definitely doing the best amongst anyone else. And folks like Mr. Callard and the foundation really need to be applauded and appreciated and highlighted to continue the momentum of giving, especially during this time of year. It's going to get tough. The weather's going to get harder, and you know that, and it's going to be more difficult. So continue to keep the eye on that, and the focus is going to be very important. But, just again, my appreciation, sincere thanks to you, to the entire council, and to the community for their support of what we're doing. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move the Board of Commissioners approve the 2019 Keller Foundation grant application submission and award.
Second?
Okay, any other questions? I'll make one brief comment. Roberta and I had the opportunity to spend a few days with Greg Callard a couple weeks ago. And of course, I've known Greg for a while because of the Evapco company up in Tawnytown. But what a fantastic individual and family, and we certainly do appreciate the fact that not only with the veteran services, but other things that they contribute to across our county. It goes without saying that the philanthropy that he brings to our county is incredible, he and his family. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge him and thank him for all the work that they do. So,
if I may, it's just really nice to see a local business getting back to the local
Correct.
community.
Yeah.
It's just tremendous.
Yep.
And we all benefit from it.
Yep.
Thank you.
absolutely. Okay, with that being said, there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
And Christine, thank you for your assistance with a homeless veteran over the weekend.
Oh, you're welcome.
24/7.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Make
you.
us all
Thank
very
you very
proud.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, medical respite space presentation. Christine, you're still on, and I don't know who you're bringing up, but
Tammy Black from Access Carroll
Oh,
is going to be
Tam-
joining me.
there's Tammy. Hi, Tammy.
Good morning.
I'm going to pass this over to Tammy, but just briefly, back in February, on February 1st, Tammy and I came before the board to discuss the concept of a medical respite program to be possibly housed at the distillery on second floor where the state's attorney's office used to be. And so we're here today to discuss the possibility and the use of that space, and also for Tammy just to kind of give you an update of where things are. So, and briefly, I'm sorry, Tammy, I did say briefing only on here. If at the end you feel you can move on to vote whether or not the space could be used, that would be great, because that was an oversight on my part. I should have said briefing and decision, excuse me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Tammy, good morning.
Good morning, and it's nice to meet the new commissioners, so thank you for having us this morning. So the medical respite has been a conversation for over a year now. Basically, the medical respite, in a nutshell, is a safe place for homeless and other at-risk individuals to receive home care when they have no other place to receive home assistance or convalescence to recover from illness, surgeries, or other health issues. In combination with those services, they would receive intensive case management and other wraparound services to then move them into housing should they, agree to do so. There's a lot of conversation going on in the state of Maryland right now. It is a governor priority. I'm a part of homelessness work groups that are focusing on this throughout the state, and this would be a kind of a next step for Carroll County. Access Carroll to propose such a thing would be a logical kind of next solution to handle the folks that are costing the system a lot in terms of episodic and fragmented services, and the recidivism and the readmission rates as well would benefit from this service. So the proposal has been to, there's a space right below our current space at Distillery Building. a similar footprint, if you will, on the one side of our operations to be able to build this out and to renovate, you know, everything up to a code, if you will, to be able to allow folks to stay there. We currently have a shelter on the upper level of that facility. This would be very different. It's not a shelter, it's a respite. And so the terminology is very important, and the distinguishing of the services is very important. So it's not a hospital, it's not a nursing home, it's a medical respite. And I do have a summary I provided some time ago if anyone's interested in a recap on that. But we're proposing 8 beds at any given time. Between 4 and 10 people in Carroll County could be placed in medical respite. The services that we're providing now outside of a respite are very costly and very labor intensive from a lot of different service agencies. So this would kind of pull all those things together and singularly focus on this person. They could stay in the respite for as short as a day to even a couple of months if it was the best housing and I guess place to facilitate their services and their needs. So again, it's not really a new concept, but I think it's newer for communities to be addressing it at this level. So we're asking if you all are open to us using the space on the first floor, and if so, then we would be able to start recruiting the funding, the capital, and then also propose at least a 5-year operating plan that I believe would be necessary just to start. There's a lot of new funding sources for something like this in terms of operations, because it would be a 24/7 operation. Again, it's not a shelter, but it would function at that capacity with a 24/7, very highly monitored setup. So I'll leave it open for any questions.
Are there any demographics on the people that would be in need of this service, like age, veterans, such as that? This
is an adult service only, so it wouldn't house children. There are veterans who, of course, could take advantage of that. Again, as far as the data goes, we've been doing data pulls for 3 years now, looking at it from our shelters, looking at it from our emergency department, of who is being discharged into homelessness right after a surgery, with pervasive or extensive wound management needs or other critical health issues. Right now, those folks, to some degree, are being allowed into our shelter services, but admittingly, it far stretches the capacity of the shelter, and it way outstretches the staff who are manning those facilities. So, again, we've seen up to 10 people at any. Today, if the medical respite were open with 8 beds, we would have, I would say, right now at this moment, all 8 beds filled.
And that actually brings up my question is, 8 is not arbitrary because you're looking at the 4 to 10. Mm-hmm. Is 8 a limitation because of the facility?
Yeah.
You're looking at?
And I think that, again, we need to have concept planning come in. So if we're allowed to use the space, then we'll bring in design concept planners. They might say, hey, we could do 10. Then we'll present that to you and say, do you feel 10 is a safe, good number? I wouldn't want to do less than 8, only because then the operations would be really offset, because you're still looking at a certain number of staffing per client ratio. And so we're looking at a budgetary standpoint as well on this for a business model.
And you're looking at fundraising to support this in the future?
Yes, well, the capital would be the initial, and I'm confident we would get all the capital. I don't want to say easily, but pretty quickly. I believe that the funding is there for it, because there's a lot of interest in it from both public and private grantors and foundations. There's a lot to be said from both a hospital perspective and the state of Maryland's Community Development Block Grant and homelessness pursuit grants.
Christine, is there anyone else looking to use this space?
No. So what happened about a year ago when this came up, there was a couple of other providers interested in this space. It came down to essentially 2 providers. Facilities walked through the space with each provider to kind of see what they needed, and the other provider, the space was too small for what they needed. So Access Carroll walked through, with facilities if it meets their needs. It's on the same level as our citizen services offices, where the state's attorney was. So they
I
do
just want to make sure by
utilize it.
saying yes to this, we're not saying no to someone else.
Oh, yes,
That's
absolutely.
all I'm
We've been
looking
through
at.
that for the
Okay.
past few months, yeah.
I wanted to add just one other component to this that may be of interest to you. As a part of a best practice model, I've been looking at other respites across the country for a couple years now, but there's a piece that I'd like to add to Carroll County. We're a unique county because we have, we're still a rural community in many regards, and we really want to focus on local produce and local resources. I would like to couple with this something called a food pharmacy. This is not a it's not going to replace any of the current food services in Carroll County. It would actually prepare local produce, focus on local resources here to be able to give that back to folks that are in need as already a prepared service. And the space would accommodate that. As a part of the scope of the Capitol, it would include a very state-of-the-art cooking facility within it that would allow for people who are not only in respite, but who are also homeless folks or anybody in need could be a part of this food pharmacy. While you're selecting your meal purchases or your meal selections for the day, I should say, people who are not at certain at-risk levels could come in and anybody could purchase a meal for the day, but they would be given counsel on food portions, on what are you selecting, dietary needs. We'd be partnering with dietary schools, nutrition schools. Right now, Access Carroll already partners with 17 other professional schools, but we've never partnered with anybody on nutrition. So it'd be a really awesome opportunity to use our local resources and have local produce utilized in our own space. So that's another thought. We haven't completely fleshed out all the details, but it's a consideration as we look at this as a great, also best practice in Carroll County.
So it sounds like you got great ideas and really phenomenal ideas, but it's still more conceptual. Like the space itself has not been determined how many beds will be in that space and the the kitchen area. I mean, is that all still in design or what?
Well, right. I can't bring someone in to do a design concept unless I have access to the space.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's
I get you. Okay.
Eric, did you want to share something?
Yes, I was just going to say, Eric Bernard, your Bureau Chief of Building Construction. I was just going to say, my office looked at the space with Tammy. With what she's requested, we figure she has about 1,000 extra square feet, so she has room to grow.
No,
Okay.
it's a great point. I agree because that's important. Where we're not building, then all of a sudden we have to fund something else and keep putting Band-Aids on an issue, but you're actually coming up with a holistic solution, and that's what it sounds like you're trying to accomplish. So I appreciate that.
it would also provide significant leasehold improvements to the facility.
So I hesitate to question anything that Tammy Black does, let's be clear. Because, well, so maybe I'll just shut up then. And if anyone has ever had the opportunity to see what has been created with Access Carroll, you will know why I hesitate to ask any questions, because your forward-minded focus that you have and the energy that you bring and all of those folks, all of your partners that are involved over there, it's unbelievable. And there have been many visitors that have come to see Access Carroll that leave there with their mouth open. And again, that's another thing I think, Dick, you had mentioned about the fact that, people across the state go, y'all doing what? What is it that you're doing again? So I certainly am in favor of doing this. My only challenge is that we have the right staffing and the right fiscal responsibility moving forward with this, because this has it sort of has this is a huge undertaking, even with just 8 beds as a respite. But again, knowing how you've partnered with everything else that you've done, I'm quite certain that you'll get to where you need to get to. But I want to make just a caution to make sure that we're not putting the cart before the horse, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure you won't do that, to make sure you've got, as the gatekeeper, everything that you need to surround yourself with for this program to be successful. So I don't have a problem with using the space. I mean, I'm sure my colleagues will probably make that decision today. I think it's so that it gives you a little bit of a chance to say, okay, whew, done with that part. Now, what kind of a timeline realistically are you looking at, Tammy, to get something like this off the ground?
Once we would have access to a space, I can bring in a concept designer, an architect, to be able to start that first phase so that then other partners can be added on. And I'm glad you brought up the partnerships that we have. This would be a whole kind of more extension of very intentional MOUs up front. It would not be on the back end, be on the front end, because everybody has to have a say moving forward on how is this thing going to look, because this is meant to be a multi-agency access point. It's not just an Access Carroll thing. We might be the one starting this and moving it forward, but as time moves on, we want the shelter systems, we want anybody who's dealing with high-risk individuals to have access to this service, because it is very, very, I just can't tell you about the labor-intensive activities that go on behind the scenes addressing these individuals' issues. So that's a scope of on a broad community level. It will be a community respite. And then once we have the space, have a designer come in, have everybody look at it, what are our needs, what's best practices. Again, we've been researching this now for 3 years. There are some grants, for example, like a community development block grant that could possibly be available to us as early as fall of 2019. So we would want to start a capital process even within the spring of 2019 to be able to move this forward very quickly and have a certain amount of internal resources devoted to it. I mean, we could possibly be looking at a build out in 2020, mid-2020, and then the project, based on my other 2 projects, we'd probably be looking at a 3-month build out process. We'd want to gut the whole thing like we did upstairs, completely upgrade every bit of the leasehold aspects of it, from HVAC to flooring to walls, everything, and make it up to code. Right now, there's no regulating body over something like this, but I have in advance kind of talked to the Joint Commission, which Access Carroll is now proud to say we are part of the Joint Commission accreditation body, and we would want to make sure that we are in full compliance with any foreseen codes that might come down the road for both patient safety and quality, client quality outcomes. So for as far as a timeline at this moment, we need design and concept planning. I'd like to work also as part of the ask is to have, I know Eric's, they've been kind to say we want a staff member from facilities to be a part of the construction project. And we did that with our other phases. It was a beautiful partnership to have some folks from the hospital also involved so that we make sure that we're, of course, staying with code and we're looking at things that might be in the future a regulation concern.
Right. Which is, you bringing that up, there are an extra burden of challenges when it comes to something like this. So structurally, Eric, you know, out of the gate, I know it's kind of tough, but you would say that the building could take that sort of that sort of activity in it. Is that correct? Absolutely. Okay.
I think our biggest challenge will be the plumbing, but I think it's something that can be overcome.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did the plumbing in the first and the second floor.
Yeah,
so.
well, I know what you've created up there is amazing as it is. So, you know, again, I don't have any doubts here. I just want to make sure that, you know, everyone's aware of the challenges that lie ahead. Yeah. As far as it fits in with the rest of the community activities there, Christine, do you foresee it as a challenge or not?
No, I mean, the only I think it fits in perfectly with what's being provided in that with the services that are already provided in the building. We will be sharing like a welcome desk, reception area. So we'll have to figure that out because right now it's, you know, it's just our staff that's up there. And,
right.
There'll be a lot more traffic coming in. So which we can do easily.
Right.
It's just a matter of how that front area is
okay.
built out.
I'd like to add, in the spirit of holiday season, for all those people who are looking for a tax deduction as the year comes to a close, Access Carroll is a good place to donate.
It's a good commercial.
So there was a
message.
shameless commercial.
I have previously donated, and I sent it to my CPA, and I was very happy.
Thank
Uh,
you.
the-
Thank you for saying so.
The relationship with the city of Westminster, and maybe Commissioner Frazier, I'm going to be looking at you here because you're familiar with how that all goes there.
Mhm.
And let's face it, there's been some challenges there too, as you know, to what are those guys at the county bringing to that building now? We've heard that. Let's put it out there and just be clear. You foresee anything there, Dennis? I mean, you know, we
No,
talked
I
about
mean,
this.
What benefits the city benefits the county and vice versa. There might be some additional people hanging around and so forth like that, but there's nothing that can't be worked through. And it does benefit everybody around here, so I don't foresee any problems with the city.
And so a lot of these folks, like Tammy said, are going from the hospital to shelter.
Right.
Right.
And this is a much safer environment
Right.
for them to be in because the shelter, they don't have the capacity or the staffing to handle those medical needs. When
Exactly.
someone's
Yeah.
being discharged, so.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you know, thinking about the way in which that happens, I can't imagine someone with some sort of wound care having to be put right into one of our shelters. I
Right. Just
kinda
a better
boggles
way
the
to
mind
handle
a
the
little
problem.
bit, you know?
Or in a
So-
wheelchair or,
Right.
not ambulatory.
Right, right,
Or having just had a surgery and they're not
Yeah.
eligible for skilled nursing facility.
right.
So-
They're going to be somewhere, this is just a better place for them to be.
Yep,
And
to
they can get the
convalesce
care
and
that
heal.
they need.
Okay, so
It's just a better idea.
Okay, so we typically don't do this. We always try to go, you know, briefing, discussion, and, you know, decision. What's the feelings of my colleagues here? Do you want to give the green light on this one? Or what's the?
Well, so the green light, so I'm prepared to, but it's to make a decision allocating the space for the respite.
Today would be just that, yes.
Okay.
And then
Mhm.
certainly,
Okay.
there'd be more layers to come, but at this point,
Absolutely. Yeah.
here's the space.
Right.
And also directing, building construction to work with,
Yeah, we could add that to the mix.
Yeah, no,
but,
but
you
just to
know,
make it clear.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make that motion to allocate that space and designate that space specifically for this respite
Okay.
care program, along with allowing the appropriate staff to work with you in the concept phase.
I'll second it.
Okay. And there's
Thank
no
you.
doubt that you'll be back before us to give us the progress on
Many
where we're
miles
going.
away.
Yeah,
Right.
be very transparent on this project to make sure
Good.
everybody's engaged and agreeable.
Any other questions, comments?
Make
All
sure
the-
you donate to Access Carroll.
Besides that one, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Time.
And Tammy, keep up the great work over there.
you.
I mean, it's unbelievable what you guys are accomplishing over there each and every day, so kudos
Thank
to
you
you.
for representing the board at our open house at 9
Yeah.
o'clock.
Well, the cookies were good. Okay. Request approval for land purchase, Bear property. Our Director of Public Works, Mr. Castingway.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, here today, the Commissioners has authorized us to negotiate purchase of parcels of land located at 207 Greenwood Avenue, which was 10,157 square feet, and 209 Greenwood Avenue, which is 11,200 square feet, more or less, from the estate of Joan Bear for $950,000. This land is being purchased in connection with our planned future Greenwood government office complex on a project that we've been working on for over 20 years, and this parcel will be utilized for the state's attorney's facility that we've been needing in order to meet the needs of the courthouse.
So in the interest of having two new colleagues here, just maybe a brief,
He's briefed.
You've been briefed? Never mind. Okay, you're good with it? All
I
right.
appreciate the opportunity to have that discussion.
Okay.
No, definitely.
All right,
I
good, we
make
can
the
skip
mo-
that step.
I'll make the motion, Board of Commissioners sign a contract to purchase 207 Greenwood Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, and 209 Greenwood Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, in the amount of $950,000.
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was easy.
That was painless.
Yeah.
Due diligence and prior preparation, it works.
Sometimes. Next item, Regional Fire Protection Water Supply Facility at 1801 Hoke Road in New Windsor. And our Director of Public Safety, Scott Campbell.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I was going to wear my Christmas tie today, but I figured Commissioner Wance would harass me for that, so I chickened out.
No, wouldn't. I'm gonna point out that he doesn't have a Christmas tie on, which
There
I
you
think
go.
is a problem.
You're looking very nice. Just saying.
Thanks for
That's
the-
debatable.
Just saying.
Okay, I'll walk right into that. I deserve all of it.
It's gonna be a long morning.
Commissioners, as Commissioner Wance mentioned, I'm here to reference a proposal to construct or install or establish a regional fire protection water supply facility. That's our term for a standardized water supply facility at 1801 Hoke Road, which is the Huff Farm. And before I go any further, I want to say it's because this site is in a region that the local fire chief said is in need of improvement for fire protection water supply, and because of the generosity of the folks who own this property that once again are offering the site, or in this case, the rights to the land at no cost to the county. We have been successful, including this proposal, of not yet having to incur those related costs. Specifically, 1 year ago, just over a year ago, we did a competitive bid for a previous site that was approved and has been completed. Part of that contract included the right for the county to pursue additional facilities for that contracted price, that bid price, within 1 year of awarding that prior work. We are within that 1 year window, so based on that competitively bid contract that was let to Stanbaugh, they have agreed, of course conditional upon your concurrence, to do this site for that agreed to cost. The only thing they ask that is a little different is there is a contingency request of $18,500 above and $119,500, which we would spend if you agree to proceed. The $18,500 is if the money is needed. In this area, you're probably all familiar, we are very concerned for the likelihood there's going to encounter some rock. Unfortunately, because of the engineering required for these kinds of installs, we really don't have a lot of wiggle room. That's a scientific term, Commissioner. So when we encounter it, unfortunately, we just can't move them because of the dimensions, the depths, the slope, and things that are needed. We need to have the ability to do this in accordance with the design of the installation. If that means encountering some rock and working with it, then obviously we don't want a position where we get to that point and then have to come back and ask, okay, we've encountered it. We're asking for the authority that if we encountered it, not to exceed $18,500 for unsuitable fill, replacement, and for rock excavation. And there is sufficient funding in place. No additional monies will be required if you decide to proceed.
So these, go ahead.
He answered the question. I
Okay.
was wondering if the money was already set aside.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yep.
So, I'm sure you've been briefed on these as well, but I will tell you that I've hit a few of these at dark 30, and in areas that don't have hydrants, these things are priceless because, you know, we'd be searching, especially this time of year. This time of year, of course, it's not cold yet. It's going to be 60, but typically, you know, we're out there chopping ice at 2 a.m., and this alleviates having to do that in many of these areas in order to get to a pond or whatever. So kudos to everyone that's been behind these projects. How many of these we have now? Do you
This
know?
would make the 10th that the county installed, Commissioner, and there's also an equivalent number that were installed due to development and growth, that there was a cooperative, they installed to our specifications, and we take it after the initial install. So you could say it was installed at no cost to us and part of our inventory.
Right. Yeah.
This is the northern end of my district, and I appreciate the fact that attention is being paid to them.
And I'm going to say kudos to Chief Tom Coe of New Windsor. All the chiefs at varying levels are very active in this process, but Chief Coe has definitely been a leader in it, as in many other aspects. And I think I know Commissioner Wance knows Chief Coe as far as his fire service experience, et cetera. So I'm going to give him credit for making the outreach and getting this started, and we have an outstanding staff, particularly Greg Dodds, who just stopped serving as chief of Winfield, who's on our staff. So we have similar outstanding expertise in-house to look at these sites, the excavation required, the use for the fire department, et cetera. So we're very, very fortunate.
What kind of tank goes in? Metal, fiberglass?
It is I'm not right sure what the right terminology is. It's fiberglass as a material. I'm going to say it's homogeneous is the right term, a single pour, and the dimensions, the capacity, everything was done so that the 30,000 gallons of water, which is a ISO standard, and the length of the tank is, I believe, 55 feet, which is the max that it can be transported without special transportation permitting, et cetera. And it's also the weight falls in line with most large excavators that are available. So the size, the weight, the capacity, and all is something that we determined intentionally. None of it is coincidental. So I don't know the empty weight, and I do apologize, but it's a 30,000 gallon fiberglass underground tank. I'll be the first to admit, when these installations are made and the ground's open, it's kind of scary. It's rather invasive.
It is.
But when it's done, nice, clean concrete, small slab with some appurtenances, and
never know that it's there.
No idea.
Looks like a small sub, Dick.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Because I watched the one go in over at North Carroll Community School
Yes.
at 97 in Stone. I actually took a Sharpie and ran over there one night and said Steve Wance was here.
It'll still function.
We
Don't
buried
put that down.
Is that vandalism?
That'll be above the fold. Knock it off. Anyway, yeah, it looks like a huge, big,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, good deal. Hey, along that line, how many years is the warranty or guarantee on those things? Is there one?
That was asked, and I do apologize. I just don't recall. I know it's either it's an extended warranty, many years. I mean, we all know this very, very thick fiberglass material, and because it is properly engineered, that when they backfill or they don't fill it with material, they could possibly damage it. So they have an extended life history or life expectancy.
Yeah. Okay.
And the one last thing I'd like to add, Commissioner, we have been very fortunate to have a couple of these facilities come to light in the last calendar year. In light of that, we are intentionally going to pull back, and we're looking at two very important strategic locations for the future, the 482-27 area and the Frizzleburg area, and we want to reserve our precious funds, et cetera, for those two. So we are going to step back if you are inclined to proceed with this one, and the next two, we hope, if we're successful in coming up with a site, would be those two sites, those two areas.
You said there's 10 in the county?
Yes, sir.
How many of them actually have been used in emergency
That's a great question,
services? Thank you.
Commissioner. We don't ask particularly when there's a house fire what water source is used. I can give you a couple examples I know for a fact. We're all familiar with the beautiful community of Harney, and there were some people wondering why we would invest one of these in a tiny little community like Harney. On Conover Road, some land was available. I would say within a month of that water being available for fire protection, they had a working house fire in downtown Harney.
So the intent is to share that good news in putting these type of facilities or structures in place to service our community.
Yes, sir.
You know, obviously you're doing the strategic approach and putting them in the right places, but then for the community to understand that the value of these things, and because they're expensive, and you're putting them in, and it takes resources to do.
Yes,
But for the community and the county to understand that and say yes, they have been used for these type of valuable reasons.
Excellent point.
Okay.
And I'm sure that we could obtain that kind of information.
Yeah.
I'm sure the respective
It's a good
chiefs
news
would
story.
share their use.
I appreciate it.
I've used two of them.
There you go.
You did.
Yep.
Well, exactly, and
Yeah.
and the person who's, but again, getting the word out to the county. These are type of funds that are being
great
put in
point.
place
Yeah. I used-
for our county. I apologize.
Yeah, I used the one on Cherrytown one night,
Yes, sir.
and the one in Silver Run. We used that one night too. There's a one.
How do they
And-
get
and-
refilled?
If there is a limited amount used, the fire departments are wonderful. We're very blessed to have some, a fairly large number, including Pleasant Valley, have some fairly large capacity tankers, carry 3,000, 3,500 gallons. they're gracious enough to fill them.
Go back and
If it's
refill.
a substantial draw, say a working fire and a large quantity, we do that. We have funds budgeted to do that. It's a very reasonable cost. And typically one of these tractor and trailer borne pool fillers, whatever, will do it for us and are very timely about it. Anytime we call, they're right there to get it back and ready for the next event.
We can work with our public information folks to put together a sort of a story on
That's a
how
great
we use
great
them
day.
and
Yes, sir.
Definitely think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
State that Winfield Fire Department took me out on a training day with this, locating them, teaching the firemen how to use them. I had no idea how many of these tanks exist. We just take it for granted that there's a water supply somewhere. Is there a mandate that they need to be in certain places?
Mandate, no, sir.
Okay.
And that's a great segue into, how we identify these locations. Why are we putting them where we're putting them? Because we solicited from the respective fire chiefs, you tell us where's the greatest need. And every department was asked to provide up to 5 locations, just somewhat of an arbitrary number, but a top 5. And then we used a mutually agreed to objective matrix to say, like, distance from other sources, things like that, to rank the individual to come up with a master rank. So we do have a list that the fire service and the fire chiefs have proffered, and we use that because they are the subject matter experts. But there is no mandate or code requirement that says there has to be a certain tank at a certain distance or location.
That?
Right.
You want to make a motion?
Okay.
You be done? I move that the Board of County Commissioners award the contract to Stanball Inc. for the installation of the Regional Fire Protection Water Supply Facility at 1801 Hoke Road as proposed.
I'll second it and add that I'd like to see Dick Weaver with a garden hose fill this one. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, is
Yeah, that
part of
was
the
actually
motion?
part of the motion, so.
We voted on it.
Okay.
Thank
We're
you.
good. Thank you very much.
Very much, Commissioners.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Exercising the option to purchase the Brian and Jenna Reinhardt farm through the Critical Farms program.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Deb.
Good morning.
Yes, we are here to look at one of our critical farm applicants, but I want to lead off our discussion this morning with something from our annual financial report for the benefit of the new commissioners and for the public too, is that the annual financial report of the county does indicate that agricultural land preservation avoids the costs of services and infrastructure to serve residential development, and that that's a good thing for the county, and that as of June 30th, we had 71,623 acres preserved. And so this is an investment in the future of our agricultural businesses in Carroll County. So we have an application for our Critical Farms program for a property up in District 1 near the Pennsylvania line, the former the Subal property, which is under contract by Brian and Jenna Reinhardt. So our Critical Farms program was established in 1993. It assists farmers with land purchases. It pays 52.5% of the purchase price or the appraised fair market value, whichever is lower. It requires the applicant to preserve land with the state program, and then state funds reimburse the county when the easement is purchased. And to date, we've had 61 farm buyers who have received this assistance, with a total of 7,551 acres involved to date. So what is a critical farm? We like to look at a critical farm as being at least 75 acres with the development rights intact, and what we call a farmer's farm. The advisory board likes to see ample cropland on these farms, and of course productive soils in classes 1, 2, and 3. And the process entails getting the property eligibility determined first off right away. And then the applicant obtains a contract and applies to the program. Our advisory board, which right now is made up of 5 full-time farmers, examines the property and approves it, if they approve it. The commissioners then examine and grant preliminary approval. And when you do that, that gives us the go-ahead to order an appraisal and get the valuation approved by the county administrator. Then we make an offer to the applicant, and then settlement is arranged. And then at settlement, we are at the settlement table with 52.5% of the appraised value or the purchase price, whichever is lower. Then, as part of that applicant's agreement with the county, they must put it under easement with the state program. And when it goes under easement, the state sends to us the amount that the county contributed to the buyer, depending on the ranking. And then any amount over what the county contributed, the applicant gets to keep. So now back to our current applicant. The farm is located at 3825 Ruggles Road in Tawnytown, the Sioux Ball property. The applicants are Brian and Jenna Reinhardt. This is a 164-acre farm and is predominantly cropland and pasture. The cost will be $544,000, $267, and that comes out to $33.18 per acre. These are photos of the farm. This is an aerial looking down. As you can see, it is predominantly cropland and pasture. This is a well-watered property, has 2 ponds and streams running through the center of it. When JP and I arrived there, there was a whole flock of Canadian geese just going into that lower pond there. It's a beautiful property. Here's how it sits right up on the Pennsylvania line. And as you can see, there is a good predominance of preserved ground in the area, so there's a true future for agriculture guaranteed in this area. So we are asking at this time for final approval of this purchase assistance for the Reinhardts for this critical farm.
Critical Farms program is great for somebody to come in and work with land preservation. They're able to finalize the deal and then wait for the state to reimburse that money back. So with that, I move the Board of Commissioners exercise the Critical Farms program option to purchase the Brian and Jenna Reinhardt. Purchase for Brian and Jenna Reinhardt.
Second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very
Unanimous,
much.
thank you. All right. Minutes. First set is Tuesday, December the 13th at 10 a.m.
Thursday.
I'm sorry, Thursday.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I wouldn't approve the Tuesday, December 13th, but the Thursday.
But you're good with Thursday?
I'm
Okay,
okay
all
with
right.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the second set is Thursday, December the 13th at 1 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That was easy.
Painless.
Painless. Agendas, these are going to be pretty easy too.
Wow.
Next week, I have the Commissioners' report.
It was looking so good until Sunday. Go ahead.
I thought it was going to be easy. All right, the week after that, the week of December the 31st, again, a reminder that the offices not only are closed next week, Monday and Tuesday, but also the following week of Monday and Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, the 4 of us will be at the Maryland Association of Counties Winter Conference in Cambridge on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Commissioner Weaver comes back to go to the Carroll County Farm Bureau Legislative Dinner at 6:30 p.m. on Friday the 4th. And Carroll County Education Association Legislative Breakfast is on Saturday the 5th at 8:30, and that's Commissioners Weaver, Boucher, and Frazier. And Commissioner Weaver has the WTTR report.
Lucky him.
Busy. Questions on agendas? We good? Okay. Open admin.
So, as you know, we're starting this work session model idea. We've had work sessions on a limited basis in years past, and therefore, specifically for, we've used them specifically for budget time. During that, we've always had a tradition of not having public comment. There's a public comment opportunity on the budget at the public hearing. And we're expanding that work session model. And so I want to add to our policy, our citizen participation, which is posted outside, which usually runs on the scroll, and which you probably have in your books. I want to add a little clarification that work sessions and then joint meetings also with, whether it's a Board of Ed, a delegation, whoever, are not, we just don't have public comment during those things. I'd like to augment those with that first. And then secondly, there's been a request to add a limitation on public comment to one item per day. As it stands at the moment, the way we do our public comment is an individual is able to comment on each item, and then there's opportunity for generic public comment at the end of each morning session and an afternoon session if we have one. And there's been a request to limit that to one public comment per person per day, whether it's an item or the general. So I don't know if you want to discuss each of those. I would suggest you discuss each of those separately to make it clear. But those are my proposals.
Okay, is everyone good with the work sessions and the joint meetings that we do not allow public comment? Everyone?
I'm good with it, knowing that as we move forward in this, these type of activities, we have the ability to make a change if necessary and to adjust accordingly. But going in with expectations and understanding, the rules, I'm all for it, and that's fine.
And
but
those it makes sense in those cases specifically because they're not decisional. You're not making
Right.
decisions during those times.
Understood.
And when you are, there are times
Right.
For folks to make comments.
Yeah, those things are what they are. They're work sessions and they're joint meetings.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them are time consuming as it is. So for that very reason, I don't think it's necessary either. Listen, we're one of the most transparent, if not the most transparent government operation in the state of Maryland. Bar none. So I think, it just makes sense in those two scenarios that we don't do that. So you want a formal motion on that or just okay, go ahead with that procedure? What would you?
We would have a formal motion
on that
work
one.
session.
On that
Yep,
one issue.
on the one.
Okay.
So anybody want to take that one? I'll make the motion that we do not allow public comment for work sessions and joint meetings.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, the second request, I'll stand up and say it was me. I've researched the open comment procedures, policies, what have you, pretty extensively. We don't have to allow open comment at all, but we do. And we enhanced it a little bit 3 years ago, I guess, to allow public comment specific to the agenda item. And that was done, I think, because it just makes sense. That way someone doesn't have to sit here the entire time and hear us debate on a particular topic and not be able to share their thoughts on that until the very end. So I think that made sense. What I don't think makes sense is for folks to be able to stand up and run up here with orange cards on a continuous basis and give comment on things that they have no idea what they're talking about. And that's what I have a problem with. It sort of turns, it turns it into some sort of I don't know. It just, it's not professional. And in several cases that I've seen, it's disrespectful for the folks that are in the room that have spent a lot of time on these agenda items. So I just think we should limit the amount of public comment that's able to be given to the individual has one shot at public comment, whether it be for the specific agenda item or at the general public comment at the end of our sessions.
I probably said one more, they have one shot at.
They can give public comment one time during our sessions, during that session, either for the specific agenda item that they're here for or in general at the end.
The challenge is that if there are 2 or 3 agenda items, say within the same scheme, and an individual has insight on those 2 or 3 agenda items, you're limiting them to pick which agenda item they want.
I've been here for 4 years and that's never happened.
Regardless.
I'm telling you, it's never happened.
But don't you think people should have the right to speak?
Absolutely, and I'm not saying that at all.
Well,
I just, to turn our sessions into entertainment sessions, and I hear it from a lot of my constituents, I think is ridiculous. So if you're here for a specific agenda item, I'm good with it. And I will also say that if that case would occur, that we certainly could allow for that person to be able to do it. We could make amends to it if that's the case. But I have never seen that happen.
So, okay, so the adjustment to this could be a rule, knowing the agenda, the person coming in is signing up to speak to a specific agenda item prior to them sitting in here in the general audience to then make a decision.
Correct.
And just talk. And I'm okay, I mean, it's
No, that's the way we do it now, Ed. Allow for, if someone wants to come in here, say we're talking about buying a truck.
Right.
And somebody wants to come in and give their comments about buying the truck, they can sign up and give the comments about buying the truck.
Right.
Before we make that decision. Prior to each agenda item, they have the opportunity to say that. But in general, if they want to speak, then they're going to have to wait till the end, which we typically do now. That's the way we do it now.
So
But to keep jumping up all the time and throwing cards at whoever's sitting over here doesn't make any sense.
At public hearings, you do only allow people to speak once.
Right. And that,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
only,
but
that's a good
it's also for a specific item, though, a specific thing, right, right. I mean, I disagree with Rothstein. If you're coming in and you have 3 or 4 different things on the agenda, that might, say, public service or citizen service has 3 or 4 things, just somewhat similar, and the person wants to talk about those 4, I don't think we should limit that. I really don't, because that person might have some expertise in there. I know where you're coming from, but I'm kind of opposed to stopping people from coming up here and speaking.
A good case in point was today. We talked about the Keller Foundation and Veteran Services. We talked about respite care. Commissioner Boucher brought up regarding respite care, specifically about veterans. If there was a veterans advocate out there in the audience from the Legion or somewhere else and has insight on those 2 activities, the way you're addressing this is we would limit it to them speaking to only one of those activities. They would have to choose. I understand.
Well, then we could make the exception to the rule.
I'd rather not make the rule. And I'd rather just keep it open and control the time limit for people to talk to the way it is and to continue to work towards keeping people on track to their comments. But
If you're going to open it up for public comment, I don't know how you're going to do any of those 2 things other than with the timer.
I agree with that part.
You can't control anybody.
It's very hard to do,
I
but
understand.
The policy is, and if you study the policy, you don't have the opportunity to banter back and forth with folks.
That's correct. You're right.
So whatever you're saying there on that second part, I disagree completely.
It is just with due respect from us up here, saying, yes, we acknowledge what you're sharing, thank you, and with that continued method to kind of guide them off the stage. And I have been a part of it where I've seen that, and I mean, it's a difficult situation. It's frustrating. I know it is. It's frustrating up here when people go off the rails. However, giving them the opportunity, I do not want to focus on, individual. I want to focus on the processes and believe in full transparency that we should allow folks to talk.
And we as elected officials, I think, have the obligation to listen to constituents. I do believe that, I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize. It's just my,
I mean,
it's my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
I mean, let's be clear, over the last several weeks, it's been a circus here. And, if you want to continue to have that, that's fine. But I'm against it. And I very well could.
I don't like the circus myself, but I also feel I would hate to stop someone else who has legitimate concerns or legitimate things
So
to say those things.
I'm not suggesting that we do that,
Well,
Dennis.
if they, I don't see how you
And
can
in
put that
4
policy.
years, tell me
Go
in
ahead.
4 years, when someone has come here for an agenda item where they've wanted to speak on 3 or 4 different agenda items. Give me one case.
Yeah, I don't recall that happening either.
It
but
does. It
doesn't
never
mean-
happens.
It doesn't mean
So
that
we
it
don't
won't.
have to.
It does. It
regulate
never
it.
happens. So, listen. Majority rules here, and I'm good with that.
Right.
I merely suggested it to try to get maybe exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
A little bit of control here
I
on our
agree.
sessions, and right now we don't seem to have that. They can come up here and talk, sit back
understand.
down. Another agenda item come up.
Right.
Quickly go back, fill out a card, run back up, give another card, run back, fill out another card, run back up. If you all are good with that, then
Well,
maybe
it-
it's entertainment. I don't know.
No, it is a test of our patience while that
Especially
happens.
when we have sessions
And
that are lengthy.
I agree. However, I don't believe in that limitation. So
I am empathetic to your position on this, but I do think if we move forward with this, we might have some severe public backlash. They're all say, we gotta put off you talking.
Well,
hurtful.
yeah,
So
I don't know.
No,
Okay.
no. So I appreciate the comments, and I agree with you, but I don't agree with
Okay.
the limitations.
Well, then we'll let that part of it go.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
We need to,
I'll try to make sure I bring popcorn next time. Maybe that'll all help you all out a little
Motion
bit.
to close for,
That's nice of
we
you.
need 3 motions of, closed land acquisition.
So, yeah,
closed-
anything else for open admin?
No, that's all.
all right.
Okay. So in that case, I need a motion to go into closed for land acquisition.
I move we go into closed for land acquisition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then after that, we need a motion to go into closed for personnel.
Make a motion, we go into close for personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then after that, I need a motion that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn after closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Safe travels to everyone over the next 2 weeks. Thank you. We're
Merry
going to
Christmas.
closed.